for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Here.
Councillor Jelly.
Here.
Councillor Geisler.
Here.
Councillor Jones.
Here.
Mayor Boucher.
Here. Announcements. Do any council members have announcements they'd like to make for good and all? I'd just like to remind everyone that Summerfest is on the way in a few short weeks. You'd be coming back after 3 years off. Please try and participate and attend as much as possible. Support this community event and help out the organizers. We have no public hearings tonight. Communications are all placed on file. Mr. Mulder, could you shortly summarize the two presentations we had at pre-agenda?
So we did preliminary presentations on the 2024 budget, and we started with the projected personnel costs for our 2024, which included the fire department and potentially an economic development position. We then also looked at the capital improvement plan, noting that in the general fund in 2024, we're not in too bad a shape. Our average over the 5 years is considerably higher. Part of that is because of the fire truck that we need to purchase and repairs to the roof that the public works building. But those are just kind of some preliminary numbers for you to look at in terms of as we start to put that budget process together. In the next month or so, we'll present the expenditures. You'll get a sense about each one of those parts as we go through the process until we finally present the whole budget to you at some kind of option.
Thank you. And we were going to have a presentation from the Hockey Association on their fundraising efforts, and that is delayed until our next council meeting on the 17th. Next on our agenda is public discussion. This is a time that individuals can address the council about any item not on the agenda. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone either present or are we online tonight, Mr. Mulder, that wishes to speak to the council? If so, start with your name and address. Is there anyone that wishes to participate in public discussion? Last opportunity for open public discussion. There will be time during each agenda item that's voted on for discussion during that item. Is there any public discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is the approval or correction of the June 20th, 2023 continuation minutes and general city warrants from June 15th through June 30th of 2023. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councillor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Jones. Roll call, please.
Councillor Jelly.
Aye.
Councillor Geisler.
Aye.
Councillor Jones.
Aye.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. We have no ordinances this evening. Under resolutions, we have resolution 2023-85, resolution approving amendments to planned unit development for Red Tail Hawk Townhomes. Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Motion by Councillor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Jones. Mr. Mulder, should we have Mr. Johnson address us? Eric?
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Before us is an amendment to the PUD associated with the Red Tail Hawk Townhome Division. This was originally approved back in the summer of 2021. At that time, the approval was for 2 twin home buildings for a total of 4 units total. Actually, I'd like to make a correction, calling actually 2 family homes is what it was, with the 4 units total, with the associated driveway and stormwater pond. What the applicant has been encountering in his conversations with people looking at these units is they're looking for additional storage. These buildings have a 2-car garage associated with each one. And what the applicant is looking for is the construction of a 1,792 square foot accessory structure. This would be for the purposes of basically 4 garage stalls associated with that. So each unit would have an additional garage space or storage space associated with their units that way. As I mentioned, the original PUD had been approved just for the actual living units. And so this would amend that PUD to include the 792 square foot accessory structure.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
You just covered both of those, didn't you, Eric? Kind of 85 and 86.
Actually, I will just briefly discuss the next one at our next resolution associated with the special use permit.
Any questions on this resolution? Is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on resolution 2023-85? Is there any public input on the resolution approving amendments to the plan unit development for Red Tail Hawk Townhomes? Hearing none, can we have a roll call?
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-86, resolution approving a special use permit for the construction of an accessory structure in excess of 1,200 square feet, 1,792 square feet within a recreational shoreland area. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder, is this one for Mr. Johnson again? Eric?
Great. Thank you again. This is now the second part of this Red Tail Hawk project. The majority of this development is within a recreational shoreland area. It's associated with a tributary, an unnamed tributary to the Rocky Run. So this proposed 792 square foot accessory structure falls within that 300-foot zone of the shoreland area. However, it is greater than the minimum of 75 feet building requirements from that unnamed tributary. So the 792 square foot structure does meet that requirement in the fact that it's greater than 75 feet. And then the SUP will be for the two things, grading and filling in that shoreland area, as well as at 792 square foot accessory structure.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I got 2 of them. First, the houses are between the garage and the river, right? So they're already building close to the river, and then this garage will be constructed.
That is correct, yes. And both those structures are greater than that 75 feet.
Okay, so even though they're outside of that, they still need this resolution and able to build.
That is correct. As part of our ordinance, as well as our work with the DNR, the city administers shoreland or overlay areas associated with the DNR. And this is one of the required processes for any work within these shoreland areas.
Within 300 feet of the shore, you just doesn't.
Yeah.
But it has to be at least 75 feet. So it's more than 75, but less than 300.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm trying to make is they're already building closer to the tributary than this garage will be. Okay. I guess my second question would have maybe more for you, John, is these 2 resolutions seem to be saying the same thing. I'm just wondering why we need 2 of them. Because if we would have approved the first one and then said no to this one, they can't build the garage. If we would have said no to the first one and approved this one, they can't build the garage.
Yeah, I mean, we could have potentially combined them, but a couple of things. One is a special use permit gets recorded.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a separate resolution approving that. So that's kind of why we do it. But I mean, theoretically, you could have had one resolution amending the plot and approving the SUP. But then you're in the spot like, well, you're asking 2 questions on one resolution. We try to avoid that too. Even though the alternative is you ask the question twice, but you still need the same answer. So I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
right, we potentially could have done it.
Okay. Just curious. I didn't know if there was something more to it than that or not, but okay.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public input on this resolution? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on resolution 2023-86? Any public input on the resolution in front of us? Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-87, resolution approving final plat of Peyton Acres Phase 2A and imposing conditions on the final plat. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Johnson. Again.
Thank you again. This is the fourth phase of the Peyton Acres development project. Even though it's called Phase 2A, we've had A, B, and C previously as part of Phase 1. This was heard before the City Council earlier this year in a preliminary format. It is still the same in the fact that it has 13 lots, 13 residential lots and 2 outlots. Of those outlots, one is associated with the stormwater pond, and the other outlot B is for the future phases associated with this project. This project will continue the utilities going from east to west and will also essentially connect the roadways from Stebner Road down to Oak Ridge Drive. So now we have a continual roadway system throughout this development. There will be an interior sidewalk associated with this, just like the previous additions. And then all these lots are a minimum of 1/2 acre in size.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
Just to clarify, the outlot, does that become city property then?
Yes, just like in the previous phases, this is actually its own outlot. So it's a little bit easier to transfer, where we've had, in the other cases where it's more of an interior pond, the city gets an easement associated with that, not only for the pond, but also for an access road. But in this case, the outlot directly abuts a roadway, so it makes more sense from a straight transfer to the city for our ownership.
We will take care of stormwater maintenance.
That is correct, yes.
And there is an easement to a pond as part of this plat as well, right?
Not on this phase, because it directly abuts a roadway that, the pond is totally within that outlot, so we just get the outlot.
Thought there was one on the other side of the property. I thought there was one of the easement situations on lot 1, but that might have been a previous. Anyway, that's okay.
Yeah, in previous phases, we did have, there's a pond behind this phase that we could access to via easement. That was in a previous phase, Phase 1C.
Start mixing letters and numbers, it gets confusing.
A, B, and 3. Anything else from council before we move to public discussion, public input? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-87? If anybody wishes to speak to the council about this resolution, please state your name and address. Is there any public input about the resolution approving the final plat of Peyton Acres Phase 2A? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2023-88. Resolution approving a special use permit for grading and filling within a recreational environment shoreland overlay area. This would be at 4307 Uggstead Road. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Counselor Jelly, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you again. This is an existing 11-acre property that currently houses the Hermantown Arena as well as 5 outdoor rinks. Is part of the future new arena or rink construction. 2 of the rinks, outdoor rinks on the west side of the building will need to be relocated. The Hermantown Area Hockey Association, or HAHA, is proposing to relocate these 2 rinks to basically the north portion of this property. It lies between some of the existing rinks north of the building, as well as south of Hawk Circle Drive. This is a current area right now that's wooded and has a little bit of a cross slope and some wetlands. The wetland delineation is in process. There more than likely will be the purchase of wetland credits associated with that. But for right now, we're looking at the shoreland area associated with this, as approximately half of these proposed rink areas fall within that shoreland area. There is a grading plan associated with this project in the packet. And basically this allows the HAHA area to continue discussions with the contractor for the Uggstead Road project, potentially get some fill from that roadway to help create these 2 rink pad areas.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
If we need wetland credits, do those come out of the arena project budget, or who's paying for those?
At this point, HAHA takes them separate from the.
Okay.
This project is separate from the rink project.
And I spoke with our city engineer during the break, and he received the wetland delineation last Friday and evidently just needs to overlay it on the map before it can be seen by the public and by us. Any other questions or comments? Is there any public input on this resolution? If there's any public input on this resolution, please state your name and address. Calling for public input on resolution 2023-88. Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2023-89. Resolution approving a special use permit for the construction of a 2-family home in a R3 residential zone district, and that's at 5106 Hermantown Road. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. This is an existing 5.62 acre lot at the intersection of Hermantown Road and Levake. It's 5106 Hermantown Road is the address. Currently on this 5.62 acre lot, there's an existing single family home and 2 garages. What the applicant is proposing to do is subdivide that property, have the single family home located on its own parcel. And then the remainder of that parcel, the newly created parcel, will have the 2 garages, of which one will be coming down, and then the twin home unit, the 2-family structure built on that. These setbacks all meet or exceed the city requirements as far as setbacks for side yard, front yard, rear yard, et cetera, that way. With, once again, this new lot basically housing that 2-family home. This property is greater than 400 feet away from city utilities, so it will be utilizing private water and septic for that 2-family building. The applicant will be required to work with St. Louis County for the receiving the permits for those type of private utility systems.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council?
Just to clarify, that 2-family building will be on one parcel.
That is correct, on one parcel.
And by 2-family, we mean duplex.
Duplex. Some discussions will have one septic system and one well associated with that. So essentially, it's always those 2 units will always be grouped together. So if there's ever a future sale, the building is sold versus an individual unit. If for some reason somebody wants to split that, they'd have to install a new utility system, but there's also building requirements associated with that. And from discussions with the building official that they're currently building these to duplex standards rather than a twin home standard.
So I know we talked about it briefly in the meeting beforehand. If they ever wanted to split that, they'd have to add a septic. Would they have to go back and update the building to meet fire code requirements for a twin home?
That would be my understanding, but I'd have to work with the building official on that. But that is my understanding, is the different fire ratings walls associated with those things.
Anything else? Is there any public input on this resolution? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-89? If anyone from the public wishes to speak to this resolution, please state your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Nay.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next, resolution 2023-90. Resolution awarding contract for play structure materials and installation services to Minnesota, Wisconsin Playground in the amount of $150,000 for the Keens Creek Park. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you again. The city, in the past couple of years, did receive some federal fundings through the American Rescue Plan Act. And as part of that, we had set aside $150,000 for park improvements at Keene Creek Park. Given the new trail that's there and the city's desire to have play structures at each one of our parks, staff believes, as well as our concurrence with the park board, that a play structure and associated park furniture should be installed at this park. As part of this process, the city contacted two different providers, one being Flagship Recreation and the one Minnesota, Wisconsin Playground, with the criteria that there's $150,000 in funds. We needed to provide a play structure, a shade structure, picnic tables, trash receptacles, bike racks, etc. for that. Both companies did come in with a $150,000 proposal with very similar items associated in the design that way. The difference being is that Flagship Recreation has identified a 2024 installation, with Minnesota, Wisconsin Playground showing a 23 installation. As far as the budgetary standpoint, the city has always identified this as a 23 project. So as a result of that, we're recommending Minnesota, Wisconsin Playground with this 23 installation.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from counselors?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question I should have asked before, but it seems like in the past we've had some vandalism issues down at that park. Are there cameras there now?
Oh, there are no cameras there right now. There has been some talk though in the park board, particularly over at Stebner as well, about the ability to get some more, maybe not closed circuit, but wireless type of cameras that way. And I think that's something that would continue to be discussed in all of our parks that way.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council?
Just make sure we get prompt garbage service down there to limit the
We can
bear temptation in that playground.
control that one.
Yeah.
Is there any public input on this resolution? If anyone wishes to comment on the purchasing and installation of playground equipment, please state your name and address. Is there any public comment on resolution 2023-90? Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2023-91. Resolution authorizing the preparation of the draft alternative urban area-wide review document for the Hermantown Business Park. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Jelly, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder, does Mr. Johnson get this one also?
One last.
Okay. Do you want them to take the rest of the agenda?
If I would have done that, I would stay home.
And actually, at this point, I'm starting to lose my voice, so I think I'm kind of
Okay.
maxed out for the evening here. So thank you again. This is authorized Braun Intertech to proceed with the draft AUAR document. The city has been working with Braun since last year, both through HEDA as well as the city council on various stages associated with the Hermantown Business Park and this AUAR document. One step that we just recently finalized and completed was the draft scoping document, which is associated with this land area. That had been sent out for public notice and public comment. That period ended on June 15th. There were no written comments received from that. The next step now is to Braun to proceed with this draft AUAR. Much of that information in that scoping document will be included in the AUAR, as well as the recently completed traffic study for this. The draft AUAR is anticipated to be sent to the stakeholders in the city on July 24th, and we're still on track for a completion date of that final AUAR and acceptance in mid to late October of 23.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-91? Last opportunity for public input on this resolution. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-92, resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver an agreement for consulting services with Baker Tilly Independent Contractor. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Mulder.
So our last compensation plan was done in 2013, and there's been a number of changes since then, including we've been talking about adding the fire department and moving to a public safety model, and the ability to recruit and retain particularly police officers, and how that might change in terms of the relationship with other positions. So we're asking council to approve a contract with Baker Tilly to just review the entire compensation plan and make sure that it matches up to the market, and we have a good internal relationships with them.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Comments? Hearing none, is there any public input on this resolution? If anyone wishes to comment to council, please start with your name and address. Is there any public input on resolution 2023-92? Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-93, resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver an agreement for survey services for City of Hermantown Connector Trail with Alta Land Survey Company. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. Mr. Mulder?
So this contract would be with Alta Land Survey to prepare all of the legal descriptions and exhibits for the easements that we'll need as part of the building of the trail. Then we will then hand those over to SRF, who will work with the negotiate with the landowners to acquire those.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Is there any public input on this resolution? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-93? Do we have any public input on the current resolution? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-94, resolution approving insurance coverage for the city of Hermantown. Do we have a motion?
I might lose my job. I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Mulder, should we have our finance director, Mr. Orm, address this?
Yeah, please.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The city's insurance year goes from July 21st through June 20th, and so we're up for renewal. The city went out for a bid from Travelers, who is our current provider, the League of Minnesota Cities, who we have used in the past, and just for workers' comp, a company called Bidco. We evaluated all those options, and we found that combining Bidco for work comp and the League of Minnesota Cities for the other lines of insurance would save the city money in the next insurance year. The renewal premium would be $248,305 versus the expiring premium. This year's premium is $265,052. So this resolution would approve switching the city's insurance from Travelers to a combination of League of Minnesota Cities and Bidco for workers' comp effective July 21st, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? If anyone wishes to comment on this resolution, please state your name and address. Is there any public input on resolution 2023-94? Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-95. Resolution approving authorization for professional services for design, bidding, and construction administration services by Braun Intratech Corporation. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. Mr. Mulder?
So as we've discussed, for a number of months, the, problems we've had with the roof of this building in terms of, ice stands and stuff like that, and the insulation, we had that looked at by Braun and some Power and a few other, individuals. And what we really need here is Braun to prepare the design of what that insulation would look like in the roof, then go out and get necessary bids and to make sure that the construction is done per those bids and per the design. So we're asking to enter into a contract with Braun to do that work for us. The plan would be that they'll do the design for the next 5 weeks. It'll be about a 2 or 3 week process for going out for bid, and hopefully the work could start sometime in early September to get this done before the cold season this fall.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? If anyone wishes to comment on this resolution, please state your name and address. Is there any public input on resolution 2023-95? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-96, resolution approving the employment of Trish Craigle as the Utility and Infrastructure Director. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
So we have been trying to recruit a utility and infrastructure director for a number of months. We were not doing any active recruitment at this point, but we did get an application from Ms. Kriegel. We interviewed her 2 weeks ago, and then again on this past Friday. Feels like she'll be a good addition and make some contributions to the organization. So we're recommending her hire. If approved, she would start on July 24th.
Thank you. Are any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-96? Is there any public input on the hiring of a utilities and infrastructure director? Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. And the last open item on our agenda, 2023-97, resolution calling a public hearing on the establishment of a tax increment financing district number 1-2, the greenhouse, and that would be for August 21st. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder.
So, as we did discuss at the HEDA meeting, and we've been considering possibility of a TIF district for the apartment complex on the Inwell site. This is the first step in that process. So we would notify the public of this public hearing. We would also notify the school district and the county board before we start this process. So we have a public hearing on August 21st, whether or not you want to consider creating a district.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
Just one clarification. If this were to get voted down, that doesn't stop the TIF district from being created, right?
If you do not approve the authorization of an advertising, you won't be able to proceed with the TIF district.
Okay.
Because in order to follow that process, this is the first step. We need to approve the official notice of the public and then have a public hearing.
Okay.
Anything else from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? If anyone wishes to comment on this resolution, please state your name and address. Is there any public input on resolution 2023-97? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Counselor Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is closed session, a motion to close the meeting of the Hermantown City Council pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.05, subdivision 3C1 and 13D.05, subdivision 3C3 to evaluate the asking price of naming rights and to consider the acquisition of property rights associated with the proposed hockey arena located on the property adjacent to the existing hockey arena in the city of Hermantown and develop offers and counter offers. Following this closed session, the council will reconvene in open session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to move to closed session.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.